Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use W1 hit to hot swap and augment your own custom rhythms. W1 hit works by starting with real drum samples and converting them to MIDI in order to extract the rhythmic data. An AI is trained on that data so that it can understand how to build rhythmic patterns given part of an input sample. W1 hit comes out of the box with 5,256 rhythms. In my last video, I said about 5,100 rhythms, but the exact number is 5,256. So one change I've recently made is to clean up the UI so that only the controls geared towards music creation are now visible. All other utility controls are still there. They've just been moved out of the way to give a better user experience. If you want those controls back, you can click the edit button. And then you'll notice that all of those other controls are now at the very bottom. You can simply move them back into place and they're still all connected, so they all still work. But for this video, let's say that you make music in a specific genre, or you have specific rhythms that you like. You can use W1 hit to hot swap those rhythms and apply AI augmentation to get variation of your own rhythms. The first step is to create a MIDI file containing your rhythms. So to illustrate this, I've created this MIDI clip with 4 sample rhythms. So the first thing you want to do is locate the W1 hit directory on your computer. To do that, you can just search for W1 hit and then right click on the AMXD file. So search for W1 hit under all results. Right click that, do show in Finder. That'll bring up your W1 hit folder. And so you want to go into the infer folder. And this folder contains the AI model as well as the MIDI files that are used to generate the seed rhythms. I just want to clear up a question that I seem to get a lot about AI models. A lot of people think that all AI models are massive programs that run on a data center in the middle of a cornfield. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The vast majority of AI models are actually quite tiny and can be run locally on your computer. For W1 hit, the entire model is just this one file under loader/models. And we can see that the entire file is only 3.2 megabytes. So if you think of an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude, those are massive models with like over 1 trillion weights. W1 hit is like a tiny fly brain in comparison, with only about like 790,000 weights. Each weight is just a number, so it fits neatly into 3.2 megabytes. Everything runs locally on your computer, and you don't need an internet connection at all. If you lose your job to AI or you're angry about AI music, feel free to delete this file, and congratulations, you've just killed your first AI. But on a serious note, don't delete this file or you'll break the system. All the MIDI patterns pass through the model before being delivered to Ableton, even if you don't augment them. Back in the infer folder, we have this MIDI folder, right? This is where all the seed MIDI patterns are stored. There are about 2,000 MIDI files here, and each file contains about 3 rhythms on average. So that's how we end up with about 5,200 rhythms. Whenever we press the generate button in W1 hit, this first selects a random file. Then it selects a random rhythm from within that file and it passes it to the model for augmentation. Then it sends the result back to Ableton. If we want to replace these with our own custom rhythms, what we can do is first rename the MIDI folder just so we don't lose the original rhythms. Then we can create a new folder called MIDI. So I'll just do that. We'll rename this one to MIDI backup. We'll create a new folder. We'll call that one MIDI. All right. Then in Ableton, we can save our MIDI clip as a MIDI file in that folder. I've prepared 4 rhythms in this MIDI clip. These are the example rhythms that we'll use for this. They're each 8 bars long. In order for this to work, we need to export the MIDI clip as a MIDI file and then save it into that folder that we created. So we're going to right click on the clip, hit export MIDI clip. We're going to name it pretty much anything. You can choose whatever naming convention you want. The system will just pull randomly from whatever MIDI files it finds, so the name is not too important. We're going to save that. So now the only source data for W1 hit is now that one MIDI file containing these 4 rhythms. So if we go over to W1 hit, let's select the voice down here. Now whenever we hit the generate button, it's going to pull one of those MIDI patterns and then drop it onto the voice that we selected, right? So that allows us to hot swap rhythms that are our own custom rhythms. Also, if we lock that rhythm in place and we turn this variation knob up, now we can also get variations of our own rhythm. So we can basically use the AI to generate variations. So this is the rhythm that we currently have, and then we've cranked the variation knob up. When we hit that, now we get a slightly different version of that rhythm, and we can just keep iterating by tapping that generate button over and over, and we'll keep getting variations. We can even push the variation harder if we want, and then yeah, we can just iterate on basically our own rhythms. The next thing to note is that there are some caveats. One is that if you use rhythms that are longer than 8 bars, they're going to get truncated. And so actually I kind of lied earlier. I said that this is a set of 8 bar rhythms. It's actually a set of 16 bar rhythms. But whenever we hit generate, it truncates at 8 bars. The other caveat is if you use legato rhythms, like let's say you made this legato, then when it gets sent to the AI system, it's basically going to reset it back to the 16th note version of that rhythm. And that's just what the AI expects, so the system cleans it up beforehand. Also, if the rhythms are off the grid, so if they're not quantized to 16th notes, if they're shifted a little bit, it's going to quantize them back to the 16th note positions before it sends it to the AI. And pretty much all of those changes are just to make sure that the AI is getting the input that it expects. It was basically trained on 8 bar 16th note quantized rhythms, and so the system basically cleans it up so that that's what gets input into the AI every time. So yeah, that's just one thing to note. Feel free to either create a new MIDI folder if you want to restrict it to your own patterns, or you can add MIDI files to the original folder if you want to expand the existing library. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy it and have fun creating with W1 Hit.